DB2 development at IBM. So with that, I'd like Saul to go ahead and welcome us to the webinar.
I'm very happy to be hosting this DB2 Chat with the labs. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this call. I also want to acknowledge the work that RightScale, Ravahuja, and IDUG have done in putting together this chat. 3 weeks ago, we had the Information on Demand Conference in Las Vegas, October 24th and 28th. This was an outstanding event with over 10,000 attendees. This event is the premier forum for information and analytics. There were over 600 technical sessions and 110 industry-focused business and IT leadership sessions. I'd like to briefly update you on some of the exciting new announcements for DB2 and warehouse in the areas in the conference. Note that we had previously had some great announcements in August as well. In August, we announced PureScale for Linux on System X hardware. This expands the platform coverage for PureScale to x86 servers. In August, we also announced the world record TTCC. This is the industry standard benchmark for OLTP transactions at over 10 million transactions per minute and at 2.7 times more performance per core than the best Oracle Sun result. These are truly outstanding leadership proof points for our industry. At the Information on Demand Conference, we continue the drumbeat of announcements. We made several announcements in the area of smart analytics. We announced the Smart Analytics 5600R2. This is a scalable Linux-based smart analytics systems with an upgraded 3650 M3 server and DS3500 storage. It was generally available on November 5th. We've already started winning business on this platform and got clients scaling into the hundreds of terabytes with this architecture. We also announced the Smart Analytics System 7700. Now, compared to previous generation 7600, this solution provides twice the performance at half the cost. The solution has been architected to take advantage of the P7 processor and is based on this P740 server. It's a terrific solution. We've already shipped a number of clients. We're looking forward to a very busy end of the year with this product. There's some great products, and these are some great products that provide outstanding scalable solutions for analytic workloads. Last week, we also announced completion of the acquisition of Netezza. Netezza data warehouse appliances bring analytics directly into the hands of business users within every department of an organization, such as sales, marketing, development, and human resources. The simplicity of deploying Netezza appliances makes technology ideal for the needs of high-performance analytics, which requires minimal administration IT skills, and enables clients to run complex data queries within days of deploying the solution. Now, we also made some key product packaging announcements at IoT. One of the most interesting ones we made was to include the PureScale features in DB2 Workgroup Edition. This will make it easier for clients to start using the PureScale technology at a lower price point. No better time to start using PureScale than now. We also decreased the price of DB2 Express Edition. DB2 Express is an outstanding data server, very affordable price. We've seen terrific adoption of this technology, and a lower price makes it that much more appealing. And finally, we introduced a new package called DB2 Advanced Enterprise Edition. The goal here is to provide an enterprise version of DB2 that includes the add-on features and tools that enterprises require. So this is Enterprise Server Edition plus key add-on features like data compression plus add-on performance administration tuning software, which all in all ends up being less than the cost of a bare bones Oracle database license. Now on to this chat with the labs. Are your application development and prototyping projects being put on hold due to budgetary constraints? Do you continually have to wait for new hardware and software to be procured and provisioned before your developers can start new projects? Are your current development test systems sitting idle most of the time? You spend long cycles creating copies of your development or production environments for testing new changes and updates. This chat will be all about how to use cloud computing to simplify and accelerate your IBM DB2 development and testing. Your host for today will be Leon Katz-Nelson, Program Director of Cloud Computing, Emerging Technologies, and Growth Markets for IBM, and Yuri Budnik, Director at RightScale. Now let me turn it over to Leon for the presentation. Many thanks again, and enjoy the presentation.
Well, thank you, Sal, and welcome everybody. Could you please, next slide. Okay. So as Sal mentioned, my name is Leon Katz-Nelson, and joining me for this presentation today is Yuri Budnik. You see both of our Twitter handles next to our names, and both of us are prolific Twitters, so please do find us there. And what we're going to be talking about today is accelerating application development and test, specifically for databases and DB2 databases in particular, by leveraging the cloud computing, which is the new paradigm in the way the IT capability is delivered. Next slide, please. So before we get into the actual meat of the conversation around development and test, maybe we can spend a few minutes trying to understand what cloud computing is really all about. And there's certainly no shortage of information regarding cloud computing in the industry, but a lot of it is centered around discussions around technology. And we like to think of the cloud computing as being more than a technology conversation. As a matter of fact, we believe that it is really around user experience and the business model where cloud computing shines and makes sense. Technology aspect of that is really not all that important. So when we talk about the user experience and the business model, it is about how we deliver the IT resources. How do we deliver IT resources such as compute capacity, IT resources such as storage, IT resources such as networking to our end users? And that's where the end user experience of cloud computing really sets it apart from the traditional IT. When it comes to the business model, the business model for cloud computing is very much centered around how we pay for these IT resources, whereas in a traditional IT environment, we pay for IT resources ahead of time by spending our capital budget. When it comes to cloud computing, the payment in the business model is pay-as-you-go, only for the resources you consume. And by leveraging pay-as-you-go model, we're really more centered around using the variable costs to pay for this, or what people commonly refer to as operating expenses. The key benefit of these two attributes of the new user experience and the business model is the way we enable self-service, empowering the end users to procure their own resources, as well as delivering this on a very large scale in providing a very flexible model for sourcing the resources. Next chart, please. So the key in here is, and this is why it's highlighted in orange or red, is it is the hottest topic in the industry. And being a hottest topic in the industry, we do have a lot of people talking about this. So obviously there's a lot of consultants who are making a lot of pronouncements of where this area is going and how popular it's going to be. So what you see in here is one of the quotes. This actually is from Gartner, and 2 weeks ago, Gartner had held a conference in Nice, France, and during that conference, they made some major announcements regarding their guidance based on their research they've done to the CIOs in terms of the projects that they see the CIOs undertaking in the next few years. So they've put together a list of 7 strategic imperatives or 7 strategic projects that they see CIOs undertaking in the next 3 years. And right smack in the middle of that list is cloud computing. Cloud computing, according to Gartner, and you can see the quote in here, is going to be deployed by the year 2016 by all major or global 2,000 companies. That's how prevalent they believe it's going to be. And in their view, the spending around this industry is going to be approaching about $150 billion by 2014. Next chart, please. Here's another view of the cloud computing as it emerges. And this particular view is a composite from IBM's own research, as well as the research that IDC, another leading research organization, has conducted earlier this year. And there's some salient points in here that you can look at. The point that I really like to focus on is really the title of this, what IBM's own research and the IDC research have found is that the spend by the IT leadership on all things tagged as cloud is going to be growing about 7 times faster than traditional IT spend. So you can look at some of the numbers in here. So traditional IT spend is projected to grow at compound annual growth rate of about 4% versus the compound annual growth rate for the cloud-based spending being at about 22%. So that's a very significant difference. Obviously, it's growing from a much smaller base, but it is expected that by the year 2015, the overall spend is going to amount to about 9% of the overall IT spend, and that's pretty significant portion of the overall IT spending. Now, what are people spending their money on? What are they spending the budgets on? Well, it is, cloud is not just a collection of vapor in the atmosphere. It is servers, it is software, it is storage, it is application development and deployment costs. Next chart, please. Next chart. Okay, we may be having some lag in here, so I hope everybody else can see the charts.
I can see it, Leon.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Yuri. So actually, for this particular chart, I'd ask Yuri to comment on, because this is an actual usage that RightScale has recorded. So Yuri, maybe you can provide a few words on this chart.
Absolutely, Leon. So RightScale is software to manage servers deployed in the cloud. And what you're seeing here is the dramatic growth in the cloud usage. And there's a few empirical findings that we have visibility into because of where we stand in the marketplace. Number one, people tend to dramatically increase their usage of servers once they discover this very practical approach to provisioning and deprovisioning machines based on the workload and on the usage. In fact, on average, we see our customers increasing the number of servers and the number of hours they run them by 250% after about 12 months. And another interesting pattern is that they launch smaller machines for perhaps dev environments and testing environments, and those seem to cycle, come and go, since they're virtual servers, easy to stand up, easy to terminate, but we see an increasing number of larger machines, meaning more CPUs, more memory, and those appear to be part of production environments because they tend to stay up 24/7 for weeks and months on end. But in summary, and as you can see from the graph, really dramatic growth across the board in the usage of cloud servers.
Well, thank you, Yuri. Can you advance on the next slide, please? There should be a build. So what Yuri just told you about was the usage that RightScale has observed, or the tremendous increase in usage that RightScale has observed. We in DB2 have also observed a similar type of usage increase. And as a matter of fact, in the 12 months from July of 2009 to July of 2010, we have seen the usage of DB2 on the Amazon EC2 cloud go up 800%. So this is not trial usage. I want to make sure that I make that clear. This is the usage for which our customers, clients pay for. So this is this is a terrific example of how our usage has increased. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on the products that we talk about in here, and specifically DB2 and where DB2 is available, on what clouds, and in what form. So if if you could take a look at the bottom of the chart, you will see the various types of clouds that we typically talk about. For the purpose of this presentation, I'd like to focus on the cloud representation that's all the way on the right, as well as the cloud representation that's all the way on the left. So all the way on the right, we have public clouds, and all the way on the left, we have private cloud. And I wanted to really delineate the difference between the two. So when we talk about a public cloud as a delivery model, we're talking about an IT vendor like Amazon or IBM building data centers and stocking the data centers with the IT equipment, so servers, storage, networking, and so on, and then making that IT capacity that they've put in place, making that available to the clients on a rental basis. However, unlike traditional IT or hosting, the rental in here is for virtualized capacity. So you don't actually rent a physical server or a physical storage unit. You are renting capacity that's been virtualized, so you're renting a virtual server and storage capacity. All the way, on the other hand, when we talk about the private clouds, what we really are referring to is our customers building capacity in their own data centers, protected behind their own firewalls, and making that available for their own consumptions to their own end users and using departments. So everything is contained within the customer's own data center and used strictly for the benefit of the customer's own organization. Now, the key difference in here is when we talk about private clouds, it is a little different than a traditional IT infrastructure that you deploy in the data center. And the difference in here is what you do to build that infrastructure, you standardize it, you virtualize it, and you automate it. And that's what makes the cloud, that's what delivers, it really is the last piece of that, the last piece of the journey, which is the automation, that delivers the user experience that is so common in the cloud. That's the self-service experience that we're able to deliver. Now, when we talk about the IT infrastructure that we deliver, whether it's on a public cloud or a private cloud, what you want to use on the top of that virtualized and automated infrastructure is obviously applications. And to enable those applications, we provide middleware. So in IBM, we have an entire division, which is our software group, where we provide branded middleware, such as our collaboration products from Lotus, our system automation products from Tivoli, our application server products from WebSphere, and our database products from information management. So in here we're going to specifically talk about DB2, which is our database product. And as you can see in here, we provide those database products for both the public cloud deployment as well as the private cloud deployment. It's the same DB2. There is no difference between the two. And by the way, it's exactly the same DB2 that you're currently using in your non-cloud enabled infrastructure. Now, there are multiple public clouds in which we deliver DB2. We deliver DB2 for both the IBM cloud, which we call IBM Smart Business Development and Test on the IBM Cloud, or IBM Development and Test Cloud for short, as well as deliver this on the Amazon Cloud. Now, when we deliver this on the Amazon Cloud, we deliver it in multiple different forms. We deliver DB2 as Amazon Machine Images, and that's what AMI stands for. But we also deliver this as templates on RightScale, as well as a completely bundled solutions. And there's one in particular I'd like to draw your attention to, which is called a Development and Test Solution Pack on RightScale. The delivery model between the Amazon Machine Images and RightScale templates is only slightly different. Whereas the AMIs, or Amazon Machine Images, are pre-canned, pre-configured, and saved machine images, RightScale templates also start with machine images, but then are customized through what's called RightScale scripts. And what we have done is we have used years of experience that we've accumulated within the DB2 team for building DB2 systems, and we have codified that experience as part of these RightScale scripts. Now, we make that available on the Amazon Cloud, but if you look over on the left-hand side of the chart, we also make that available on the private cloud. So the same RightScale templates and the same solution pack you're now able to deploy on a public cloud, or you can deploy it securely within the confines of your own data center, within the confines of your firewall and the security perimeter on your private cloud. Next chart, please. So at this point in time, we hopefully have a bit of an understanding of what the cloud may be, whether this is a private cloud where you're renting the capacity from a third-party provider like IBM or Amazon, or it's a private cloud where you have virtualized infrastructure that you're making available to your own users from within your own data center. The question is, what is this infrastructure good for? What is it most suitable for? And where you should avoid that infrastructure? What are the applications that are not suitable for that? So it is absolutely true that while cloud does deliver a lot of the benefits, it is not the right delivery model for every application. There are quite a few customers who are still hesitant to use cloud for many of their mission-critical applications, especially applications where there is a high demand for government and regulatory compliance that may be a little bit harder to achieve in the cloud, either private or public. So there is, however, one class of usage or one class of use cases that we have seen really picking up and gaining momentum. And that particular class of applications is really centered around development usage as well as the test and QA usage. So next chart, please. That's really what I wanted to talk about for a majority of this presentation. So if we look at the challenges that are associated with development and test, which is an integral part of the overall life cycle of an application, what we find is the resources that are required for development and test are very cyclical in nature. So you have very high highs where you have a lot of demand for a lot of resource, but you also have the troughs where the resources are not very well utilized. And when you have the highs, the amount of resource that's required is quite staggering. So you're challenged with a desire or a need to get a large amount of resources, and sharing is almost non-existent. And the reason sharing is non-existent is because as humans, we tend to, for lack of a better word, hoard the resources that are hard to get. And we engage in that practice because the lead times for procuring the resources are very long. So if we were to give up the resource, we are always afraid that it's going to take a long time to get it back, which is, by the way, true. The other challenge that we find is consistency. Consistency is the key to achieving high quality. We find that about 30% of all errors injected into the test and development cycles are due to the lack of the consistency in configuration. So maintaining consistent environments is a key challenge that we are trying to address with cloud computing. The other part that's important to understand is very rarely does an organization of any size has a single test and development environment. You typically have multiple environments built in parallel for quality assurance. So for example, you can have functional testing. You may be doing testing that is more system-based in nature, user acceptance testing, testing that deals with stress of the systems, and so on. So you have multiple environments. And at the same time, a lot of that can be done by distributed teams. It is very rare in this day and age to find centralized organizations in place to do this. So a lot of our customers have teams all around the world, maybe in India, Ireland, Romania, Vietnam, wherever that may be. Creating consistent environments and deploying them very quickly to these distributed teams is a great challenge. Next chart, please. So here are some interesting nuggets of information that kind of go to the points that I've just talked about. So when I talk about the very demanding requirements for the amount of compute capacity that you need for development and test, we in IBM have done some research, and the results that we got indicate that anywhere between 30 and 50% of overall IT infrastructure is dedicated to pre-production uses, which is primarily dev and test systems. That's half of all your IT infrastructure is tied in the development and test. The other part that we found from the survey is just how low the utilization of the system is. And we find that the utilization of the systems is less than 10% on the average. And as a matter of fact, in most cases, it's around 2 to 3%. So what we have is we have a situation where almost as much as half of your IT infrastructure is utilized at only 2 to 3%. And as a matter of fact, I'll give you one example. U.S. federal government spends yearly about $20 billion on IT purchases. They find that their utilization of that capital is only 3%. So 97% of the $20 billion, that's over $18 billion, almost $19 billion, goes unused or sits idle. What we also find, and as I mentioned before, is it's not just the availability of resource, but the reproducible and consistent environments that are causing, or the lack of consistent environments are causing a tremendous grief to people who are doing the testing. And it's about 30% of all defects are injected due to the wrongly configured environments. When we talk about the workloads and when we say which workloads are the right ones for the cloud, what we find that most people are looking for two attributes of the workload that would make it right for the cloud. So one attribute is people are really looking for as quick return on investment as possible. People are looking for the very immediate return on investment, and that is important to today's climate. The other part is people are looking for minimal risk type of use cases. And it just so happens that development and test really conforms to both of those. Next chart, please. So this is some more results of the survey. So as a result of this quick return on investment and a minimal risk, our own consulting organization, IBM Global Services, has recommended test infrastructure as the primary deployment target for cloud computing. What you also see in here is some of the results of some of the surveys that RightScale has done, and you also see that RightScale customers also see development and test as their top priority, right behind scalable websites. Next chart, please. So I've mentioned that survey that IBM has done several times, and this is a pictorial representation from that survey. And the words that I'd like to draw your attention to is the words in the top right-hand corner, and it says idealized workloads. This is where the recommendation for cloud deployments are. And when it comes to databases, it really is the application test and application development that we see represented in here. Next chart, please. So let's get to a little bit more substantiated information in here. So we're going to talk specifically about how we do DB2 development and test on the cloud. Next chart, please. So we'll start with the IBM Development and Test Cloud, and I'll introduce it very briefly. So as I said before, when it comes to the public clouds, you have public cloud provider like IBM building data centers, and we've built a number of them. There is one in Europe and one in the United States. And we've stocked it with equipment. Next chart, please. The equipment that we have in there is a x86 and x64 Intel-based servers, and they're running Novell Linux as well as Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And as of last week, we have also added Windows capability into those data centers. Next chart, please. What every cloud possesses is a catalog of services. And in the catalog of services for the IBM Cloud, we have plain machine images, as well as IBM middleware, such as WebSphere, Rational products, Tivoli products, as well as DB2. Next chart, please. So you as an administrator, or somebody in your organization who is an administrator, would be selecting products from the catalog. And next chart, please. And you would be making those images or those products from the catalog, those services from the catalog. Can you advance to the next chart? You'd be next. You'd be making that available to your testers and developers. When the testers and developers are picking things from the catalog or picking their images from the catalog, they're going to be deploying those images onto the IBM cloud or into the IBM data center, onto the virtual machines that have been provisioned, that are being provisioned for them. The entire process is a simple point-and-click process. It literally takes less than 10 minutes to provision an image for a developer or a tester with DB2 or WebSphere or any of the other products on them. Next slide, please. Now, one of the key issues that comes up all the time is the issue of security, and what we have provided in the IBM Cloud as well as in the Amazon Cloud is ability to deploy this in a secure fashion. And next chart, please. So just as you have just as I've shown before, where you have the IBM data centers with equipment in them, you will have your own data center. And what we're able to do is establish a secure communication through the VPN channel between your data center and the IBM Cloud data center. Next chart, please. The resources that you're going to be allocating are going to be allocated from the shared resources in the IBM data center, but they're going to be isolated into your own private virtual LAN or virtual local area network. Next chart, please. So when you are provisioning resources for your developers and testers, while they are being provisioned in a shared infrastructure of the IBM Cloud Data Center, they are entirely behind the firewall that is your firewall, entirely protected by your security best practices, by your security procedures, and your security personnel. It is using the exact same secure communication infrastructure that you use to dial into your office today, which is the VPN secure channel. Next chart, please. So this is a summary in here. Basically says shared infrastructure, but it's secured, and it is located behind your firewall. Next chart, please. This chart is simply here to provide you with a URL to get started. When you go to this URL, you can get an account on the IBM Cloud and get started fairly quickly. There's not much else to say in here. The only thing I could recommend is actually for people to go do this. Next chart, please. Now, a few charts on deploying development and test environments in private clouds. So in this particular case, you will see a square on the right, which represents your data center. And in your data center, you are going to be building your own private cloud. So as I said before, what is your own private cloud? Next chart, please. It is a collection of consolidated hardware that you're going to virtualize. Next chart, please. What is this hardware? It is going to be x86, x64 based hardware with Linux operating system on it. There's going to be a hypervisor of your choice that you're going to run. What is a hypervisor? It's something that helps us virtualize. It is a virtualization layer for your hardware, and you can use your hypervisor of choice. The most typically used hypervisors are things like VMware, Xen, KVM, and so on. You would also install additional cloud enablement software, either something from Eucalyptus or cloud.com. Next chart, please. And what you're going to, as you probably saw in the previous charts, one of the key aspects of any cloud is the catalog of services and the management platform that goes with that catalog. So RightScale is exactly that. What RightScale provides is the multi-cloud management platform, and the multi-cloud is going to become apparent in a minute. But it's a multi-cloud management platform that contains everything that you need to make cloud into a cloud. So RightScale contains a library or a catalog of services that you're going to draw from. Next chart, please. So in this catalog, you have a large number of products, open source as well as commercial products. And we in IBM have placed a number of our products into that catalog. So you will have machine images in there, but you're also going to have IBM middleware products, templates and scripts in there, as well as some of the third-party templates and scripts. From the IBM point of view, there are charts at the back of the presentation that talk about some of the templates we've put in there. But I'll tell you right now, we're talking about DB2, so there is DB2 as well as WebSphere in these templates. Next chart, please. So as administrator, you are now configuring the set of services that would be available to your users or testers, developers. But once that's done, your testers and developers are able to self-provision. Basically, they're able to pick the resources that you have configured for them and then apply them to the cloud or provision them on the cloud. Next chart, please. Next. So a couple of key points in here I think that are important. You'll notice that everything is provisioned in your data center in what we call private cloud. So none of the resources, none of your data is residing outside of the firewall. It's all within your private, within your data center. There is a firewall, and for RightScale to do its magic, there's going to be a port that needs to be open that we're going to have to that you're going to have to make open for your clients to come in. Next chart, please. Here's the same situation, but in here we're going into the hybrid cloud. Next chart. Again, we have the private cloud, we have the equipment. Next chart. Same configuration as before. Next, please. Again, we have the RightScale catalog. And in addition to the RightScale catalog and being able to deploy it from this catalog into the private cloud, you're also going to be able to deploy this into what we call a hybrid cloud. So extra resources that are no longer just in your data center, but may be located, for example, in the Amazon cloud data center. So that's an extension from the hybrid, from a private cloud into the hybrid cloud. What you're seeing in here is the RightScale in conjunction with IBM managing deployment to both of those resources. So next slide, please. So what kind of usage do we have for doing development and test? So we have three main usage patterns for development and test. One of them, it can be, you may be building on the cloud, so using the cloud resources as your sandbox for build and test. But the end result, the application that you build, you will be deploying onto your own data center, so on premises. So build in the cloud, deploy in your own data center. Another usage pattern that we see is when you build in a cloud, but your final destination for the application, so the production destination, is the cloud as well. There are times where we see people building applications or using their in-house resources for deployment on the cloud. And when we look at the popularity of these three, by far, number one is the very first use case, where you use the shared resources of the cloud, but you're deploying it into production in your own data center for the usage by your own constituents. Next chart, please. So at this point in time, I'd like to pass the baton to Yuri, who will actually show you how this is actually done in real life and do a demonstration. Yuri, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Leon. I just started to share my screen. Do you see it already?
I do.
So let me remind everybody on the webinar that you can submit questions throughout the webinar. We're actually looking us over. Some of them we answer on the text chat right away. Others we'll be covering during the Q&A portion. But please, as you think of any questions, go ahead and submit them to us, and we'll tackle those as they come. So what you're looking at now is the web browser on my computer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to demonstrate lots of the themes that Leon was covering during the presentation. And I'm going to start with the most simplest part. RightScale is software as a service, by the way, and it's software used to manage servers in the cloud. It could be a public cloud, it could be a private cloud. It was really about managing the servers no matter where those resource pools reside. For simplicity here, and because it was easier to set up for the demonstration, I'm going to be launching up servers in Amazon's cloud, but it's applicable in private clouds as well. And I'm going to start with the idea of the self-service portal. Leon talked about IT departments being able to create pre-configured and approved servers, configurations of servers that then developers can launch when they see it necessary. So that means that they're no longer waiting for IT to set up a machine for them, but IT retains control about exactly what is in those servers that people in the development team are using. So the first thing I'm showing you here in my web browser is a self-service portal. I'm logged into an account that only has access to servers that have been pre-approved and, in fact, put there by the IT department. And to keep it simple, I just have two machines that I have here on my list. And notice one of them is a dev and test all-in-one web speed meeting. This could be plain vanilla, something that your team customized to be exactly what you're looking for. Now, all it takes for me to launch this machine is to click on this blue button here, the server, and it's actually rather fast from that. Actually, did I misclick it? Let me see. There. Once I have the ability to pass it some configuration parameters, and this I'm going to skip it in the interest of time. I'm accepting field license. I'm accepting the DB2 license, and because I could have lots of people use sound in creating lots of groups of servers, I'm going to attach my initials to this deployment. I'll explain what a deployment is in a moment so that I can pick it out from us. In fact, I did have lots of different people working a particular project. Now, as I'm speaking, you're actually seeing RightScale setting up and configuring a machine. We're making an API call to Amazon in this case to instantiate a virtual machine, and then we're installing it and configuring it exactly as it's been this perfect template, and it's complete. I'm clicking OK right here, and you can see these new macros. It says macro executed successfully, and I'm clicking on that. Now, machines actually run and launch quickly. It takes 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the complexity of the cell. As this machine is coming up, you can see it's pending. It'll be operational probably inside of us, but because we have a lot of people here on the webinar and we don't want to have everybody just waiting, cooking show style, I happen to have already one bacon in the oven, so I can show you a little bit more about how it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of this account, and I'm going to log back in to a different account. And I happen to have my username and password saved with a password manager, so I don't have to type it. So I'm logging back into RightScale, showing you now, and I'm going to switch accounts here. I'm showing you is an account that, for example, an IT department would access to all the different apps that I might want to deploy, configure, customize. I mentioned in some moments ago this idea of deployments, and here I have a whole list of all the deployments in this account. Think of a deployment for one or many servers, but I can manage them together at a system level, and it allows me to do things like look how much, let me scroll so you can see the columns at the top. How much is a particular deployment costing me right now? What's my chargeback rate? And how much did I spend so far this month or even last month? And in the case of cloud servers, because of the way they're provisioned, they could be rather effective. It also makes it a lot easier to have a long list of servers in alphabetical order, and with the color dots that I have here, I can see what's running, what isn't. So I'm going to click through on a particular server. I just click on this machine here, and that takes me to the deployment that has to change. I want to show you how it is to work on servers that a whole team could be employing. So by clicking through the nickname of this particular machine, I want to see what application it's loading. Doing that is as simple as look at DNS name. Again, as I was mentioning before, these servers are running on Amazon. So when I click on this, it's going to new tab, and it's going to hit port 80 on that particular, and that's what we are seeing here. Let me close my other tabs so they're not distracting us. And this is just an application that's running a blog, and I have a logo here that I don't really want to use this particular logo. What I want to show you next is how you can tie this with your code repository in Eclipse for a whole development team, how a team can not just have a code repository for the project they're working on, but easily deploy and consistently track exactly what kind of what objects get put in the machines, because it's more interesting visually. I'm just going to change the logo in that particular machine. And for the team part, I want to show how somebody else can have access to the same machine and make some changes. So with that in mind, I want to pass the presentation over to one of my teammates, Rock, who's working, it's actually in a different city right now. He's got Eclipse loaded into his computer, and he's going to show how he can very easily change a particular object in a project, and then utilizing the automation of RightScale, update by pulling code from a code repository into a server so that it stays consistent throughout the team. So with that, Rock, I can see your screen over here. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. So as Yuri and Leon said, in the spirit of distributed development teams, I'm in a separate location from Yuri, and let's assume that, as he talked about before, that he launched a test server with a Drupal application, and we saw that in his test that the logo is incorrect. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to actually correct that. So in the RightScale dashboard, I pulled up Yuri's server, the Drupal demo server, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit port 80. So I'm just going to click on this link to click on port 80, and I'm going to be able to test and see the application running on Yuri's server, and I see, in fact, that the Drupal logo is incorrect. It's the Drupal logo, and I really wanted the RightScale logo. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the RightScale logo that I want and go to my IDE, and I'm just going to drop in the new file into my local source code, and like any source code repository, I'm just going to commit my changes so that it's actually stored in the Subversion repository. So now that that has been updated, I need to be able to refresh the code actually running on the demo server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my dashboard and look at the server. And in RightScale, we have the ability to run scripts from a server that's running. So I'm going to go to the scripts location, and I'm going to see all the scripts that I can run operationally, meaning while the server is running, there's scripts that I've set up ahead of time that I can run to do things. One of them, as you see on the last one, is I'm going to actually refresh my code checkout from the source code repository. So what I'll do is I'll run that script that's already preset up with my passwords and everything to collect the source code off of the SVN repository. And we see in the upper left-hand corner of the demo, of the dashboard screen, that the script is running. It takes a few minutes.
Rock,
yes.
I would like to add. I would like to add something here. I would like to point out that just as we're running this on a single server, we could just as easily run it across a whole pool of servers. And by automating the exact steps that it takes to do this and make it into an operation that's automated, you maintain the consistency so that you don't have to individually log into each machine and potentially make some mistakes that you're making changes throughout. It can be a lot more complex than what we're showing right now. We just want to show an easy example. And I see that it's completed it wrong.
Yes, so to reiterate, you can, as Yuri said, you can set up scripts as part of the dashboard, or you can run these same commands through the APIs. So you can create your own API commands to execute the same thing. So we see in the upper left-hand corner that it has been completed. If I go back to port 80 on the server and I just do a refresh, I should see now that my logo has been updated. So here's an example of where we actually made the change in our local copy, pushed it to SVN, and was able to refresh the cloud server to continue our testing. So I think at this point I'm going to pass it back to Yuri to continue the demo.
Thank you, Rock. As the screens are switching, I'd like to point out to everybody that we have a user permission built into this so that IT departments can decide what level of access each person has into what accounts, in what roles, what kind of things they have permission to do or not do into those accounts. And we also keep a full audit trail of who changed what where, so that's more important usually for operational reasons, that you can actually maintain visibility into who's making changes into the environment. So I would like to show a couple more things that are rather useful in this idea of development and testing using cloud servers that we're discussing today. I'm back looking at my RightScale account, and I want to point out how we have a lot of assets from IBM set up within RightScale. So I'm clicking on Design and Library, and I want to show my library of servers. And I want to point out that as a launch machine, we already have in here. I'm going to search for anything where the publisher is interested to be the feature publisher at the moment. If you see my screen here, so we have DB2, Web Series CE and DB2, an interesting test server with a Radiant CMS server and DB2. So you can very quickly stand up a single machine. But perhaps even more interestingly, I'm going to switch over to the macros account that I have here. And I already have, let me search again for IBM. And I already have, we call a macro is some a series of steps to quickly build me a whole deployment with a group of servers. So let's say I wanted to stand up your classic three-tier architecture, load balancer, app server, database. And I have my assets here for Web Series CE and DB2 deployment. As you saw me before, stand up a single server. Standing up a group of servers is straightforward running a macro. In the interest of time here, I'll go with my default settings. You know what? Let me make sure I got the right settings here. So this is Web Series CE. HQ is default, and I'm going to give it an IP address. I click on again. I'm accepting the Web Series license, the DB2 license. In this case, I'm giving a name for the deployment, and I'm going to say for demo. I'm in the hyphen. And now I'm building not a single machine, but a complete environment. And again, my business can be codified into this particular environment so that I'm creating it. So for example, how many gigs in the config file that I'm going to attach as a virtual volume to the DB2 server. I can make a decision right here about that. What about my that I want for this database? I can make a decision about that right here, which is did. And I'm building a complete environment. Now, I want to point out to me where I want to instantiate the servers. In the public cloud, in which public cloud, in Europe and Asia, in North America, or do I want to launch these servers in my own private data center? And I can control who's got access to what, all from a single pane of glass. Once again, we see that this is executed successfully, and I'm going to click OK here. This is going to take me to, then once again, it does take a few servers to instantiate. So in the interest of time, I launched all of this last night. I'm looking through my list of deployments, and I'm scrolling here towards, this is the one you just saw me create, HRC for demo. But I created this last night. Webinar IBM and Westshare. You see that I got some servers running. I'm going to click on that, and I want to show you one more very useful thing, and then I'm going to pass the presentation back to Leon. Let's say this is my run-in. It's maybe an integration environment. Maybe it's a dev environment. And as you see, I got a load balancer. I got a database. I got 2 WebSphere application servers here, 2 far afield. These are configured to actually auto-provision more and more servers based on load, so that if I want to baseline how many users concurrently my application can handle, I can actually apply some automation there. But the main point I want to make here is thinking about most teams now being distributed. Development in one country or one continent. You could have testing in different places altogether. Ireland, India, the Philippines come to mind right away. Let's say I want to take this environment and I want to go test groups having access to that. Notice these servers are running, by the way. I launched them last night, as I said, 16 hours ago. See this little button I have here that says clone? I just clicked on it. And as we speak, I'm making a complete servers, the configuration, and actually the virtual volumes with the data attached to the servers themselves can be copied as well. So in mere moments, and you just saw it be complete, I just copy of the environment. And I'm going to then rename this maybe QA test team alpha, for example. And I can put this environment in a place where I give it access for that team and that team only, so I don't have to worry about them being able to browse around my entire account and have access to everything else. So hopefully in this few minutes we've shown you some of the things that are really useful in practice, tying into the benefits that Leon has been explaining in his presentation, and how you can very quickly and very easily get started with these things. One of the other interesting things is that because the servers are usually rather inexpensive, it's not a difficult or costly proposition depending on exactly how you structure things. So with that, I would like to pass the presentation back to Leon.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. As the slides are going to come up in a second, the clone button is something I never get tired of seeing. It is just ability to take a complete working environment and reliably recreate an exact replica, bit for bit, byte for byte, being exactly the same, and then pass that over to a QA team. It is just worth its weight in gold, I think. So you've seen Yuri demonstrate an IBM, traditional IBM middleware stack based on the WebSphere and DB2. We also provide capability to create mixed stacks where you can have tools or technologies which are, let's say, open source scripting languages like PHP, Rails, Python, and so on, combined with DB2, or maybe you may be using .NET technologies from Microsoft. All of that is possible. All of that is deployable. All of that is available, and that includes the tools. We have a terrific set of tools. You've seen the demonstration of the Eclipse-based environments, which, for example, our rational tools and our DB2 management tools are based on. But we can also provide add-ons for the Microsoft-based environments as well. So for Visual Studio.NET. Next slide, please. Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that we have a number of these templates and RightScale or RightScripts available in the RightScale library. This is just a snapshot of some of them. There is one that I would particularly like to draw people's attention to, which is this Radiant CMS image towards the bottom of the screen. Those of you who are, during Yuri's presentation, you probably have seen their charges there. Those are the charges for the Amazon cloud infrastructure. So if you're going to be running this or you're going to be trying this out on the Amazon is going to charge you for use of their hardware. But what Amazon has also announced is that if you're new to Amazon, you can get a year's worth of usage of something called the micro instance. And micro instance will be free for about a year, actually for exactly a year if you run it 24/7. And what we're doing is we're busy retooling this Radiant CMS, which is gives you a quick ability to create a blog or maybe a website, very much like the Drupal that you've just seen. We're doing this Radiant CMS image, which is going to run with DB2 on this micro instance, so you're going to be able to use it at no charge. So no charge for DB2, no charge for Radiant, no charge for Amazon, no charge for RightScale. Terrific way to get started very quickly. And with that, I'd like to move on to the next part of the presentation. Okay, so just to summarize, I think what Yuri was trying to show you is by using the RightScale, you are empowering your developers and testers by allowing them to self-provision the environments for themselves. While you're doing that, you're not giving up any of your control as the IT professional. What you're doing is you're making it easy for them to get what they are supposed to get and making it impossible to get what they're not supposed to get. And that's recreating this managed environment, an environment that is created by you. The benefit of that is you're eliminating the errors that are due to misconfiguration. As I mentioned before, this clone button, it creates a carbon copy, exact copy of the environment you have. You cannot screw that up. You're not injecting errors right there. And what you're enabling is you're making your business, and specifically your test and development, more agile. So let's move on to the next chart. Now, as the famous commercial goes, we're not just the providers of this technology, we're also the users. And what I'd like to announce in here is we are making DB2 Early Experience Program. Many of you know this as Alpha and Beta. We're making that available on the cloud for you to use. Next chart, please. So this is the DB2 Early Experience Program for the next version of DB2. That's not the DB2 that's out there today. It's the upcoming version of DB2. And we are mindful of the amount of time and money that you may be spending to evaluate our products and to help us build better products. So we are leveraging the cloud to reduce both, to help you save money and to help you save time. And the way we do this is we make it available in the cloud, which means you do not have to provision the hardware. You don't have to go and try to find the server someplace. You don't have to install the operating system. You do not have to install the DB2 software or any other software out there. You get a server that has all of that on it. And the best part, the part that I like the most, is every time we refresh our code, you always get the absolute latest version of our code. So as we progress in our program, you are always using the latest version of the code, which means you're not discovering the defect that we may have already addressed, and you don't have to put any extra effort into doing that. Next chart, please. I'd like to encourage everybody to apply for this program. It is not an open beta. It is a managed program. It means you do have to be approved, and you will have to sign a confidentiality agreement in there. We do not want our, we value the relationship with you, but we also don't want to make this information be available to our competitors. You'll see a couple of links in here. So you apply by sending an email to db2beta@ca.ibm.com. and then you can go to my blog and you will find some information on how to proceed with this early experience program once you're approved. The entire process really takes only about 20 to 30 minutes. I do want to warn you that you do have to provide your credit card, not to IBM, not to RightScale, but to Amazon. You will only be charged when your server is up. You will not be charged when you shut your server down. So, take care when you're participating in the program. The charges really are minimal. The server we recommend is the one that runs 34 cents per hour. So if you were to go and experiment and play with this for a couple of hours, you're really going to be under $1 in your charges. But you will be providing the credit card. And next chart, please. What I wanted to conclude this presentation with is really a picture. So this, what you see is a picture of my laptop. This is a MacBook Pro. And I was flying from Toronto to Denver, going to our IOD conference. And the flight I was on actually had Wi-Fi service, which is I was very excited. So I put down my credit card, paid $9.95 for the duration of the flight to get Wi-Fi. And absolutely the very first thing I did is I connected from my laptop over Wi-Fi into that DB2 beta server in the cloud. So what you see in here is me using something we call Technology Explorer, which is our web-based interface for learning and experimenting with DB2. That's on my screen. So I'm in the clouds working with the DB2 next generation server in the clouds as well. So with that, next chart, please. I'd like to encourage you to just get started. Cloud is one of those subjects where you don't have to think too hard or plan too far in advance for. The best thing you can do is actually jump right in with both of your feet. We've made sure that it is either inexpensive or free. You have multiple options. You have the IBM Development and Test Cloud, as well as the capabilities that we've just shown you for the private cloud with RightScale, as well as the Amazon cloud with RightScale. I would very much encourage everybody to go and try the DB2 Early Experience Program on the cloud. It is by far the fastest and the best way to experience it. And now we have some time, 15 minutes to be precise, to go for questions. So at this point in time, I think we're going to
I have the first
be able to answer questions.
Leon, I have the RightScale questions here in front of me. So I'll answer a RightScale question, then I'll pass it over to your team to answer IBM questions. So the first one is, and I think this is related to perhaps a little bit of confusion from IBM. So what is RightScale, and where is the line drawn between what RightScale provides and what the cloud servers or the private cloud servers are? So let me clarify this for a moment. RightScale is software that happens to be software as a service. Think of it as an orchestration layer, as a management system for the servers. We're not providing servers, we're providing the technology to run in your own data center on your own private cloud. We're providing a management system for all those servers and also a library of pre-configured assets. The DB2 and the WebSphere server templates that you saw me launch, and the way to manage and configure all those, and the user permissioning system that rides on top of that. So it can become the front end to all your different pools of resources that you have throughout the organization, public clouds and private clouds, and in many different data centers. But RightScale itself is just software, and just like Salesforce.com, for example, happens to be software as a service. So, Leon, I'll throw over to your team for the next question.
Okay, yeah. So we have a number of questions that have been submitted in here. I'll take a few here that deal with DB2. So one of the questions that I have is, which DB2 editions are available on Amazon EC2 cloud? So the answer to that is twofold. One is all editions. So any edition you want, you can run on the Amazon EC2 cloud or on the IBM cloud for that matter. And then there are different forms in which we have this available in. So we have pre-built AMIs, as I talked about before, for DB2 Express edition, as well as the DB2 Workgroup edition. We also have RightScale templates that we have shared in the RightScale library, and they're available for anybody to pick up for DB2 Express C edition. And you can then apply your license to upgrade that to a DB2 Express edition. We also have templates built for DB2 Enterprise and other editions of DB2. What we have not done is we have not made them public in the library. However, we'd be more than happy to make those available to whoever needs them. And so the reason they're not public in the library is because those are licensed editions of DB2, and you do need to bring in your own license, which means it's the same license you would be purchasing for running DB2 in your own data center. So we have any and all editions of DB2 available, and there are pre-built templates and Amazon machine images available for specific editions.
So, Leon,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. I was going to take the next RightScale question.
Yes, please.
So I have a question. How is RightScale priced? So once again, I'll draw an analogy to Salesforce.com, because RightScale is SaaS. There's multiple editions of RightScale, and the pricing is based on the number of servers and the number of virtual CPUs that you're managing on the servers, and then the features that you have. You need to manage lots of different people and lots of different separate data centers and virtual and private cloud accounts or instantiations, or do you have just a simple setup? In RightScale.com, there's an easy link to see all the different editions of RightScale, the prices, and what they include and don't include. And of course, we're always happy to talk to anybody that is trying to figure out the specifics of what they're looking for. But nevertheless, I want to remind everybody of what Leon mentioned. You can actually try all these things for free. We are very, very happy to have you use the free version of RightScale. We put our best foot forward in all these things, and we recognize that using it first and recognizing the value of a particular software package is the best way for people to feel comfortable that it's going to work for them, and therefore we do that. And we also have an addition for development and testing that we chose to price really aggressively to make it easier for companies to decide to do some development in the cloud. As Leo pointed out, it's a low-friction way to get started with these technologies and to get a level of comfort within the organization. So with a goal of making that easier for an organization to jump into, when you look through the pricing, please look at the Dev and Test edition that's got some very attractive pricing. So Leon, I pass it back to you for the next question.
All right, so I have a question in here, another question on licensing. So people are asking, how is DB2 licensed in the cloud? And that's a fantastic question. I love answering it. We have two ways of licensing or pricing DB2 in the cloud. So first and foremost, for those of you who want to start with DB2 Express C, that's just free. It doesn't matter whether you run this for test and development or you use it in production, whichever way you use it, it is free. Then the two ways for the priced editions of DB2, and by the way, it's very easy to put yourself, upgrade yourself from the free DB2 Express C to a priced edition of DB2 like DB2 Express. It really is just to apply the license key. So how do we price those? We have two types of pricing. You can rent the license together with your hardware. So whether you're buying this from Amazon or the IBM Dev and Test Cloud, you can have the price of DB2 included in the hourly price that those cloud providers charge you for the hardware. Or, and that's the method that most of our customers prefer to use, is just bring your own license. So you may be purchasing DB2 licenses in volume from your IBM representative or the system called Passport Advantage. So you may be purchasing the licenses there. All you need to do is you apply those licenses instead of your systems on-premises to your cloud systems. There is no difference in the licensing, in terms and conditions. It's the same license. So just to recap, free DB2 Express C, easily upgradable to paid licenses for DB2. Those paid licenses can be rented from the cloud provider like Amazon or IBM, or you can bring your own licenses that you get under volume discount from your IBM salesperson. Yuri, back to you.
So I have a question here. How can RightScale work with my private cloud? And I didn't show that specifically during the demonstration itself, because I was launching a lot of servers, or the servers that I did launch, I launched them in Amazon. You actually register your private cloud into your RightScale account, and then as you're choosing to instantiate servers, it's a matter of choosing from a drop-down menu whether you want them in this cloud, another cloud, a different cloud. It's rather straightforward. Once you have your own private cloud, and it's got to be of a compatible API, and we have information about this on our website, so that we can make the proper API calls and monitor the servers and spin up the servers. But the advantage of getting your own private cloud is that all the server templates in our library are able to be launched and run in your private cloud. You can also leverage all the management things that you saw me either demonstrating or describing, like the user permissioning system and the audit trails, the way to keep different groups and teams separate from each other with different levels of access. From our perspective from RightScale, we're just talking to different clouds. The functionality on the management side from us is there. And I know there's lots and lots of interest in private cloud, and that's an area that's getting a lot of momentum. So we end up having a lot of conversations with people that are trying to explore what makes sense for their organizations and what they're trying to tackle and get some ideas and help from us. So I have one more question, Leon, and then I'll pass it to you if you still have more pending for IBM. The other question is, can I customize the server templates and then the macros, the procedures that build the whole environment? Yes, I didn't have time to show exactly how that works in the demonstration, but the server templates themselves are very modular. They have an AMI, so they have a virtual machine that has the operating system built into it. But other than that, everything else is installed and configurable during the boot time process. So you can easily make changes to how DB2 is configured or WebSphere. You can add your own tools, your own monitoring, whatever the features are that you need for compliance. There are things that you can easily add to existing assets that we have there for you. Then you can clone them, rename them, and give them accessibility for your team. And the same goes for the macros that you saw me run, where I now take individual server templates and build a whole environment out of them. That's also completely customizable through and through. And then you can choose how you share those internally between the teams that you have. So that's the last question that I had over here.
Actually, Yuri, I wanted to add to the question about the private cloud. So charts 18 and 19 in the presentation, actually specifically chart 18, was talking about how you would build the private cloud and how you would use RightScale to manage the resources on that private cloud or to deploy into that private cloud. So, the charts are available for download as a PDF, so people can review that at leisure. And I should say that we are seeing with our enterprise customers, as you would expect, a great deal of interest, specifically in the private cloud. So while the public cloud is a very convenient way to learn and to get started, many organizations are hesitant to do more than that in the public cloud for the fear of security and compliance. So it is a fantastic way to actually transition yourself, have a quick start in the public cloud just to get your bearings and learn the basics, and then quickly establish a private cloud infrastructure, but yet maintain the same management capability that RightScale provides. So do we have any more questions? I think one of the questions was where can I get the slides? So there are two places where the charts can be gotten from. One is from the invitation to the webinar. There's a PDF attached, but also I would encourage people to go to ibm.com/ labchat. That's LABCHATS. And you will find this particular webinar as well as all of the other Lab with the Chats over there. If we are at the top of the hour, if there are no more questions, which I'm not seeing any, at this point in time, I would then like to thank everybody for participation. I would especially like to thank RightScale for organizing and sponsoring and collaborating with us on this Chat with the Labs series. I would encourage you to continue participating with the Chat with the Labs series. We are growing in popularity and frequency, and we are delighted that you are continuing to spend your time with us, learning more about DB2 technologies as well as the new methods and ways of using these technologies that we've done in this webinar. And my parting words for all of you would be, as I said before, cloud computing is one of those really interesting technologies or deployment models where you can actually get the benefit, even if it's at least for your own education and career advancement, almost immediately with very little risk, if any, and very little cost, if any. So I'd encourage you to go to our resources we've provided, get yourself enrolled in the DB2 Early Experience Program and take advantage of deployment in the cloud to learn all about the upcoming version of DB2. There's a lot of really exciting functionality out there, and help us build better DB2. And hopefully we'll see you on the cloud.